Deze van mij ook al.
Je ruikt het wel gelijk.
Ja. Een soort spray hoor. Die technische universiteit.
So good afternoon everyone. We are here to elaborate on our project that we have done in the last semester, which is about Rockwool Dry-down in greenhouses. What is Rockwool, what's dry-down? We will get back to that in a minute. But first, let's see what's the current situation. So due to a significant growth in the world population in the last decades, we are experiencing higher water demand. And because of climate change, there is a water scarcity problem. And about 70% of the withdrawals of water are formed by the agriculture. So we have to investigate in that sector. If we look at the current situation, a grower applies his own irrigation strategy based on own experience, which means waste of energy and water. On the other hand, there are a lot of high-tech technologies applied in large-scale greenhouses, but those are considered as expensive. Such a device costs about 1,400 euros. So how should we address our research question? How can we use inexpensive sensor data, but in combination with physics-based models, to robustly predict Rockwool dry-down? And we chose the Rockwool since it's the high-tech growing medium instead of soil, so we can experience and test the nutrients and what's the input, what's the output. The dry-down is the uptake of water that the plant consumes. So what's our approach to that?
Yeah. So first of all, the experimental setup. The experimental setup was used for controlled growing conditions for the plants and to continuously monitor all of the dry-down factors that take place. We have chosen to use basil in our setup since it's quite a leafy plant and it uses quite a lot of water for its size, so it makes it suitable for our setup. We also make use of eggplants since it cancels out any variability between the different plants. So let's first take a look at the growing land that we used, which can be seen over there. It's quite a lot of light, but yeah. The previous webbook in 2021 didn't use a growing land and just used the sunlight, which provided unknown and inconsistent irradiance. And since we want to use consistent irradiance and known irradiance, we made use of this lamp. Irradiance sensors are quite expensive, so a lamp was the choice that we made here. This lamp also provides the ideal spectrum for plant growth, namely far red and blue light. This provides and stimulates the plants to grow. This lamp was provided to us by Hoytelux for this test. Next up is the control system.
The commercial break.
Here the water content is measured using weights, and that is done with the use of different load cells, which just measure the weight, and that's then converted with the script to the water content. The water content is kept at 80%, which is considered ideal for these plants, and the water is administered to 2 plants at the same time. So if one plant drops below 78% or the average drops below 80%, plants are given water. Also, we use different type of sensors like these, which measure the temperature, humidity, CO2, so all the important dry-down factors, so we can train the models. Finally, the data collection part. The data is collected every 5 minutes with the sensors. In the top graph, the water content of the 8 plants over 3 days can be seen, where on the beginning of each day the plants are watered. Since then the setup is turned on. Such watering event can be shown more clearly in the bottom graph, where you can see one plant drop below 78%, triggering a watering event. Let's now take a look at the models.
Thank you, Toine. In order to validate that our models that we're making is correct, we've taken a large data set from Wageningen University of Research. There was 6 months of high-tech greenhouse data using those expensive sensors that we mentioned in the beginning. And we are looking at long dry-down periods in order to compare with our own data set that we've created. I'm going to highlight in a moment 3 different models, a linear regression model, a physics-based model, the Van Genuchte model, and a combination of the 2 into a gray box, which I'll explain shortly. Furthermore, it is interesting, we're looking at a month of data, and we split that training data and a training test split of 80-20%, which results in 24 days of training and 7 days of testing those. You can see this beautiful graph in blue, the water content rising in accordance with the water supplied in yellow. And as soon as the water being supplied stops, our dry down happens. So you see the red line, that is the segment we've taken for each day. So this results in several models. This is the first, the linear regression model. This is a very straightforward model where we try to just connect a straight line going up and down to see whether it fits. You can see it doesn't fit perfectly because it has been trained on those 24 days. And then applying and testing it, it fits all right. What fits better is our Van Genuchte model, which is based on a physics formula, which is the relation between the volumetric water content and soil-water tension. To then further improve this model, we've looked at the error rates and looked at, hey, how can we get the observed data closer to our predicted data. You can see in green this beautiful small correction with the linear regression on the error rate. So then it gives an improved fit, and then we are going to look at our own data.
So when we use these trained models on the data from Wageningen, we can see in the top graph that this model isn't really good at predicting the dry down in our own test setup. This is due to the difference in growing conditions. So this is where our part of the we want the different models to be robustly in predicting the dry down of Rockwool. This means that the model is able to account for the difference in the growing environment, but so far we have not been able to implement this part. But when we retrain the current models on our own data from our own test setup, we can see that the prediction again is quite accurate, and we are able to predict the dry down of our own test setup. So in the end, we can say that it is possible to use these cheaper sensors, these load cells, to predict the dry down, but at this point in time, it is not possible to do this for all the different environments for different greenhouses. So right now, it's not possible to just plug and play this model into a new greenhouse and achieve the same results. So that's why this field needs more research and more data collection on the different types of dry down. But in the end, we believe that using these cheaper sensors, we can save a lot of water and get more performance for other types of greenhouses.
Very good, thank you. More money is needed, just in case. Vragen, questions? Yeah.
For the test setup, was there a reason that you connected 2 plants to one water line instead of each plant their own line?
The main reason for this was basically cost and complexity. We needed to connect all the different plants to a single source of water, and we would have needed a lot of valves and pumps to be able to supply water to a single plant at a time.
En we achteraan, ja, geloof ik. Ja?
Could you elaborate more on why the morphology of plants are different? The ones on the left side in comparison with the ones on the right side. Did you use different irrigation strategies, and that's the result of it?
It's just the result of like different plants. Like they were grown from seeds, so not every single seed was grew in the exact same plant. That's also the reason why we have 8 plants in the setup, so we can kind of filter out the inconsistencies between different plants while they're growing.
Ik zag daar een vraag gedaan. Ja?
If you use like the weight, the plant grows, right, with the water. So isn't it then, as it growing, getting less water because it always goes to a percentage, or is something done?
Yeah, that's something you need to filter out. So when you measure the weight all over the day, and at night the plant will most likely be dry. So then you can measure again and get sort of a zero basis of the plant, again of the dry weight. We didn't filter it out during our research, but that's the way it's done when we use it.
Also due to the fact that the plant didn't gain that much weight during our own. It's only like a few grams with, in relation to the amount of water that's in there. It's almost negligible.
That was also a limitation of experiencing less dry down because we have small plants. In case that we have a bigger plant which consumes more water, so we are expecting to experience a higher trend of dry down.
In the beginning, the plants weren't this big yet, so it was way different.
What is the cost of these new sensors compared to the 1,400 euros that the expensive ones
These
are?
load cells cost only 10 euros a piece, so it is a great difference between the 1,400. And if you want like an entire system of those 1,400 euro pieces, like for a small greenhouse, it's between 10 and 15,000 euros. Whilst our entire setup over here is like
400, 500 euros.
Huge. Ja.
Did you consider other sensors? I can imagine like conductivity, or I don't know, it might be other.
We also have other sensors, but those are not integrated. We can read data out of them. We have a moisture sensor, carbon dioxide sensor. We also have a thermocouple, thermometer, to test another test environments. But our focus was only on the water content and the weights.
So when looking at that in the models, we made a multivariate regression as well, where you just gave them all the sensor data from the Wageningen data set as well. And you got a clear top influencers, clear top parameters, and those are the parameters we've selected to measure and then use in our model.
Ik zat daar. Ja.
Yes, I had a question regarding the accuracy of your own model and the model from Wageningen. Was there a difference between the accuracy between the two? Like, how well was the predictions?
Yeah, these are cheap sensors, so their accuracy is a lot lower. So that's why we use the model to cancel out those inaccuracies. Like the really expensive sensors have a very high accuracy.
Yeah.
So these have less accuracy, but a model fixing those inaccuracies.
So when you fixed those errors, were you able to come close to the predictions you would make with the Wageningen model, or weren't they
Yes,
close?
with the Wageningen model, we got an R2 squared, so the root square error of like 0.998, so very close to some of the predictions. With our own models, we were around 0.96, so like 4% in a way, which is for this field still very close.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Ja, laatste vraag.
So from what I understood, you guys have events where you water in one go, so you don't water continuously. Why did you choose to do that instead of watering continuously?
The main reason is to replenish the nutrients of the plant. So you wash out the used. And you also want to give a lot of water in one take. That's just the optimal way for workload water in the industry.
And furthermore, in order to get a longer dry-down periods, then our model has more training data to get one period.
Very good. Well, we're gonna enjoy our own dry down period now. And we're going to do that with the end of the next group. Who I already see dribbling down the stairs. Van de Veen, Klaus Hofland, Paul Vullen, en kan ik
Leuk hoor.
Well done.
Ja. Ik vond het stukje met hand aan en uitzetten, dat was wel. Ja.